Members, it's the appointed time when we have a quorum. Let's have the election of chairman for 2015-16 for the panel on food safety and environmental hygiene. Please refer to ROP 77(6). Members who are chairman or deputy chairman of advisory bodies under the scope of this panel should not be chairman or deputy chairman of the panel. And under ROP 77(7), members cannot be the chairman or deputy chairman of more than one panel. In accordance with House Rules 22 and Appendix IV, we will conduct the election of chairman. A valid nomination is to be made orally by one member and seconded by at least one other member orally. The nomination will have to be accepted. Nominations, please. Mr. Vincent Fang. I nominate Mr. Tommy Cheung. Any seconders? Seconded by Mr. Wong Kok Heng. I accept. Can I ask the Deputy Chairman, Mr. Stephen Ho, to conduct the meeting? Any other nominations? Ms. Sito. I nominate Ms. Helena Wong. Any seconders? Seconded by Ms. Claudia Mo. Do you accept? Yes. Any other nominations? If not, please distribute the ballot papers and the jobs.
嗰啲細節都唔使講啦，聽過大家熟㗎啦呢個。我哋而家去 rap 呢個啦。係啦。係啦，畢竟呢度要講。係啊，呢度都可以。委員喺選票。
After you've fixed the job, I will declare that voting is closed and there won't be any more ballot papers distributed. The ballot papers will be collected by staff members. Members, please put the ballot papers into the box yourself. It's a secret ballot, so do not show your ballot papers to other people. Once you've fixed the job, please close the ballot paper without folding it in half. Now, who hasn't got a ballot paper? Candidate number 1 is Mr. Tommy Cheung. Candidate number 2 is Ms. Helena Wong. Any other members who hasn't got a ballot paper? If members have fixed jobs, then voting is closed. No more ballot papers is to be distributed. We've distributed 21 ballot papers. Please collect them. Members, please put the ballot papers into the box yourself. Please do not leave your seat before you do so. We've collected 21 ballot papers, which is the same number as those distributed. Members who have made the nominations, namely Mr. Vincent Fang and Ms. Sit Ho, please come to supervise the counting of votes. All ballot papers will be destroyed under the supervision of the clerk after the voting.
1號
1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Please count again. I now announce the result. Mr. Tommy Zhang, candidate number 1, has received 12 votes. Ms. Helena Wong, candidate number 2, has received 9 votes. So Mr. Tommy Zhang is elected chairman of this panel. Congratulations. Please chair the meeting. Now, election of deputy chairman. For 2015-16 session of the panel, a valid nomination is to be made by one member orally and seconded by at least one other member orally. The nomination will have to be accepted. Nominations, please. Ms. Dari Lee, I nominate Mr. Stephen Ho. I accept. Seconded by Mr. Kok Wai Kang. Ms. Claudia Mo, I nominate Ms. Helena Wong. Any seconders? Ms. Sit Ho seconds. Any other nominations? If there are no other nominations, we will vote by secret ballot. Please distribute ballot papers to members who are present. Along with that, there will be a job. After members have affixed the job, then voting will close. Ballot papers will be collected. Members will have to put the ballot papers into the box themselves. According to the procedure, candidates will be given a candidate number. Sorry, Miss Elena Wong, do you accept or not? Yes, I do. I thought you forgot to ask. I didn't ask, but it seems that you were quite excited. Yes, it is a slip on my part. Well, I thought that people who did not support me because I slipped from time to time. Okay, candidate number 1 is Mr. Stephen Ho. Candidate number 2 is Miss Elena Wong. After members have affixed the chalk, then voting is closed. No more ballot papers will be distributed. 21 ballot papers have been given out. Please collect the ballot papers. Members, please put the ballot papers into the box yourself. Do not leave your seat before you do so. We've received 21 ballot papers. Miss Starry Lee and Miss Claudia Mo, please come forward to supervise the counting of votes. Number 2. Number 1. Two. 1. 1. 1. 1.
Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 2. Number 2. Number 2. Number 2. Number 2. Number 2. a total of 20 ballot papers collected. Mr. Stephen Ho, nominee number 1, has got 12 votes. Number 2, nominee Helena Wong, 9 votes. I declare that Mr. Stephen Ho is elected as the Deputy Chairman of the Panel on Food Safety and Environmental Hygiene for the session 2015-16. Congratulations, Mr. Ho. Next, we move on to the second agenda item, which is on the schedule of meetings. It is the meetings are fixed at the second Tuesday of every month, 2:30 p.m. This is what has happened in the past few years. But then on the 9th of February, that is the second day of the Lunar New Year, this is a public holiday, and the clerk suggests that that meeting be rescheduled to 4:30 p.m. on the 2nd of February or 4:30 p.m. on the 4th of February. The 4th of February, then that would also be the day when the full council sitting will be held, and we might have to cancel it. So I think the 2nd of February, a Tuesday, will be more appropriate. If members don't have any objection, then we'll reschedule that particular meeting to 4:30 p.m. 2nd of February. The items for discussion in the next meeting, Mr. Michael Tian, the 8th of March falls into the meeting of the MPC and the CPPC, and I noticed that it will only be me going to those two meetings. Can you make certain arrangements? I don't want to be absent from this meeting. Well, if I remember correctly, special arrangements are made to the full council seating, but we haven't made any special arrangements for panel meetings. It's quite difficult to do that. Well, can you check whether rooms are available and do some reshuffling of the dates? As long as there is a room available, we'll see whether we can do something to the meeting on the 8th of March. All right, for the meeting next month, it will be held at 2:30 p.m. on the 10th of November. The administrator has proposed 3 items to be discussed: enhancing the monitoring and surveillance of food trading and imports, and that is item 1 in the list of outstanding items, a promotion of green burials, second item, and also update a proposal on the election of members from the veterinary profession to the Veterinary Surgeons Board of Hong Kong. And that is the third item on the list of outstanding items for discussion. Members, do you agree that these items should be discussed? All right. Now, Ms. Claudia Mo has written to myself on the 8th of October 2015, suggesting that the panel should establish a subcommittee to study issues on animal welfare and cruelty to animals. And I would like to ask members, do you agree that Ms. Mo's suggestion for discussion, I suggest the item be included in the meeting in November? If you agree to that, we would discuss with the administration whether we can cancel one of the items proposed by the administration. But if the administration doesn't want to do that, we might have to lengthen the meeting by, say, half an hour to cope with that extra item proposed by Ms. Mo. So we will try to discuss with the government, and perhaps we would prolong the meeting by half an hour to incorporate Ms. Mo's suggested item. Okay? Dr. Helena Wong, Ms. N. Zhang, and Mr. Michael Tan, you have raised your hand. What would you like to discuss? There are certain items which we would like to follow up on by the panel. Well, a reminder, we must end the meeting by 11 a.m. because the education panel will elect the chairman. There will be 12 members who will be attending that meeting. I will be very quick because there is another item which has to be discussed or which is raised by another colleague. Please, I hope that within this year we can arrange ASAP to discuss the wall-mounted kettles, water heaters, and also water heaters in restaurants, whether the food is safe, because there are some 20,000 restaurants in Hong Kong using water heaters, kettles, and 3 kindergartens have been found to be problematic with such kind of establishment. I've written to the Food and Health Bureau, and they said that they are not going to check on these kettles, so they must do some explaining to us. And also regulation of food contact materials, whether toxic substances may be released from such materials like heavy metals and plasticizers. So regulation of food contact materials has to be discussed. For example, cooking utensils, pots, polyfoam containers, and so on, whether they will be releasing toxic substances, contaminating or tainting the food. So we need to discuss that. Also, about fish and meat, whether there are antibiotics contained, regulation on these materials. Also, poultry and fish feeds, safety of such feeds, whether there is any regulation to monitor them. The last point, we've been discussing this for 2 years. Dr. Koh should arrange for us to pay visits to mainland farms which are supplying food to Hong Kong to look at their safety measures. Dr. N. Zhang, thank you, Chairman. I would make one point about food for pets, the safety of such foods. In 2013 and 14, some members have already raised these items for discussion, but I don't think that will be discussed even for 2015, safety of pet food. But many people are raising pets these days, and there are a number of shops selling pet foods. Can we arrange for the item to be discussed in this current session, and also something related, drugs for pets, the safety of drugs? Mr. Michael Tan, there is a pressing subject. It's establishing a storage and distribution center for frozen poultry meat. And we've been discussing this for 4 years, and nothing is being done. Frozen poultry come in the amount of 120 to 130 in number, and taking 98% of all poultry supply in Hong Kong. And what they are doing is that they are doing the distribution on the streets, and fixed penalty tickets are being issued to the suppliers. The FHB has already said that it has already given the green light, but then the land department is refusing to look at it. So I think there is a problem, and the problem has dragged on for 4 years. We hope to discuss it as soon as possible. Mr. Stephen Ho, I agree with Mr. Michael Tan's suggestion. We've been following up on this issue for many years. Well, let's not have a discussion here. Well, apart from that, well, that's already included in the list of outstanding items. Well, we will remind the government to discuss this subject as soon as possible. Thank you. And there is also the subcommittee on hawker policy. Under this panel, it has completed its work, and by circulation of papers, the report has been circulated to members. The paper number is CB2 2178 8, 14, 15. So I would like to ask members whether you would agree to the two recommendations of the subcommittee. One is to seek the consent of the House Committee to give priority to the chairman of the subcommittee, Stephen Ho, to move a debate on the report on the meeting at on the 11th of November, and also on that meeting, apart from discussing the report, there should only be one other member's motion which has no legislative effect to be allowed to be discussed. Now, before the deadline, 40 members have responded. All of them support the first proposal, that is to give priority to have a debate on that report. But then there is one member who doesn't support the second proposal, that is at the council meeting, there should only be one other member's motion with no legislative effect that should be allowed to be debated apart from that report. So on these 2 points, considering that most members support the second proposal, that is the 1+1 members motion, and this proposal is in line with established practices. So this panel should support the two proposals of that subcommittee, and that proposal should be submitted for consideration by the House Committee. Well, we've had 4 occasions where there are 1+1 members motions debate. All right, do we agree to that? No AOB, meeting adjourned.